Welcome. With us today, we have Jennifer Gossett with the Unhustle Bustle. I am so excited to talk to Jennifer today. Her family's situation just sounds so cool. You guys reached out to me to come on the podcast, and I'm going to let you tell the story because it's going to sound way better than what
Okay.
I say. So, welcome,
Thank you so
first of
much for
all.
having me. I
I'm so
appreciate
excited
it.
to have you here.
Yeah,
Yeah,
thank you.
just go ahead and tell us, like, what are you guys up to?
Yeah, so we actually are a fully nomadic family. So we sold our house in November of 21. And we actually have a school bus that has been renovated. And so it's a 40-foot Bluebird. It's a 1992. So it's a little vintage, and we just travel around. And we have actually four children, and two of them are in college. The twins are in college, and then we have two that travel with us full time on the bus. And we are coming up on 1 year full time in the bus. So we kind of just did some traveling while we waited for the bus to be finished. And so July 1st, I think, will be our first full year of being completely nomadic. So yeah, we're
That
pretty
is
excited.
so cool.
Yeah, definitely out of
So,
our
all right,
comfort zone. So we had never
let's
camped or done anything like that before.
really.
Yeah,
So there's hope for me, is
yes,
what you're
so
saying.
we sold everything, and I was like, what are we doing? It was a little crazy at some point, some parts of it, because I was like, what are we doing? We're nuts. Like
That's
I
what we're
think we
thinking about
yeah.
too as we hear this story.
Yeah.
But it's so what even gave you the inkling to do this? Had you been homeschooling like your college kids?
No, no. So I actually was a public school teacher. And first of all, I love my job. So let me just say that I loved,
Yeah.
teaching where I taught. I had wonderful colleagues, and I loved the kids. Um, from watching our older boys go through school, I started to think that maybe it didn't matter so much. I know that sounds so bad to say, but like the stuff that they were learning, I was like, I don't see how this really matters in like life. And kind of
Yeah, like the grand
to,
scheme.
yeah. And I mean, both my husband and I have college educations, and we've gone to school for different things and dabbled in different things. And, um, I don't know. It started to like kind of click that I was like, I don't know that we're doing necessarily the right thing, or we're doing them justice, or as much as we could as parents. And I
Yeah.
felt so tapped out, for being a teacher, that I didn't have enough time for my own children. And I think a lot of
Yeah.
teachers can, attest to that. So it was very stressful, especially during COVID. It was very stressful and a lot to handle. And kind of during that, I got super sick, and it was not COVID. Everybody asked if it was COVID, and it was not COVID, but I got super sick, and it really, makes you rethink your life a little bit, and like, what are we
Yeah.
doing? And what value do I have, and how am I going to help my children the most that I possibly can? Because obviously my stress situation was not good, and who knows how long I would have been able to maintain that level, of parenting or teaching, or even just like living in this life. So,
Right.
and I think
Well,
that,
that
go ahead, I'm sorry.
that resonates with me as like coming to this place where I'm like, okay, do I go back to work now that my maternity leave is almost over?
Mm-hmm.
Or do I part ways with the government
Mm-hmm.
employment and, find something that is a little bit more meaningful in
Yes.
life? And you're promised all these things like a pension, and I'm sure as a teacher
Yeah.
you were as well,
Yeah.
and the health care, the
Mm-hmm.
health insurance, and paid time off, and those sorts of things. Like it's like, dangling the carrot in front of you. But at the same time, a girlfriend of mine, her mother also was in government work her whole life, and she's like 55 or something now, and dying of cancer.
Yeah.
So she had to take her retirement, and this is her retirement. It's
Yeah.
battling chemo and new medicines and all this stuff. So I'm like, wow, what if I stick it out for this pension, and what if the dollar crashes and it's not there?
Right.
What if they invest it wrong and it's not there? I mean, they could take it and do whatever they want with it. I
Yeah.
wouldn't know, and it's just not there. Or what if I'm not here? Like, what's it
I
all
know.
for?
Well, I actually left mine. So in the state of Indiana, you have to teach for 10 years before you can get the money that you have invested. And so I actually quit before that 10 years. So I left all of
Wow.
that money. Yeah. So I
It's
walked away and it's still
yeah.
sitting there. So I guess if I ever decide to go out and finish that time frame, then I'll be able to get it at some point in time. But yeah, I left that
Okay.
money. So,
How
um,
so what how did you even how'd you get the courage to do that? What
to
was your thought
leave,
process?
to leave my
Yeah,
job.
to take
Yeah,
that's a big step.
it really was, but I think my health was like the biggest thing. Like I didn't realize how sick I was, and I had just not been taking good care of myself. And then
Mhm.
I started thinking like having so we have two boys and two girls. And I started to really look at how I was taking care of myself and what I wanted that to look like for our girls, to be honest. And no matter what you say, we have four children, and boys and girls, it is different. It's very different in how you look at them and how you practice different things in front of them. So like good body image and those kind of
Mhm.
things, which are
Mhm.
valuable for both. But for my girls, whenever I look at it, whenever I look at the type of moms that I want them to be, if they want to be moms or however that looks, I want to make good choices for myself. And so
Yeah.
whenever my health was declining, I thought, oh my gosh, I'm not practicing like good values for them and like how to take care of themselves as future mothers, and that their existence here is more important than a job or anything like that. And so my husband actually and we sat down. So one thing that we kind of coach people now to do this kind of stuff, which is so fun and like exciting to do, but we write down a list of our 10 non-negotiables. So things we are never willing to give up. And those can change like as you go through this. So one day we were just sitting down and I said, you write your list, I'm going to write my list. And they were very similar, and none of them had to do with our jobs. Like none of it had to do with our
Wow.
jobs. And
So
it
it was
was just,
things
we
like
wanted to
making sure the kids
like
are well taken care of and
yeah, yes. And like eating good food and being outside every day and obtaining new knowledge, like reading or podcasts or whatever, experiencing new things, traveling, like all of those things. And none of it had to do with our job or the home that we were living in. And we had just built this home. So we had like 20 something acres, and it was a beautiful home. And we waited exactly 2 years so we didn't have to worry about paying any taxes on it from the sale of the home, because in
yeah.
the state of Indiana, I don't know if that's nationwide, but where we are, there you can wait 2 years before you have to pay any taxes on it. And so we waited exactly 2 years, and then we just sold everything. So, and for
Wow.
us, our time is so much more important than the money. So even my husband quit his job too. So we
Wow.
both quit. We dove in, and it was extremely scary. I'm not going to lie. We kind of threw
What
up a couple
did
times because it's scary.
what
I
did
mean,
he
it's
do
scary.
before?
So
Yeah, I can imagine.
he was an auditor. So he managed an audit department for a hotel and casino. And yeah, it was scary because obviously
So
his,
he wasn't out there doing like forestry work where like,
no,
hey, babe,
no,
I got it.
no,
Let's
he
get in
has
the
an
bus.
accounting
Like
degree.
he was
Yeah.
auditing. So
Yeah.
like this is
Yeah.
all new to him too.
Yes.
What gave
Yeah.
you the idea to like say, let's live in a bus?
So first of all, I like to do different things, and be a little, out there, right? And I know a lot of people have RVs, and there's nothing wrong with having an RV, and they're beautiful and done very well. But I've actually designed homes. So I designed our home in where we lived, and I've done actually a couple other ones. And I was like, I really want to design something. I love it. I find it so much fun. And I actually have a design degree as well. So I have a degree in education, but I also have a design degree. And so I was like, I want to design something and I want to make something. And so that was kind of it. And I just thought it was really cool to live in a school bus, especially considering because I was a teacher. And I was like, let's do this. So that's what we did. And it took about a year to finish. So
And so it has a bathroom, right? Because I was telling my son
yeah,
about your story this
yeah,
morning. He goes, "But
yeah,
where do they
yeah.
take a bath?" I'm like, "Well, I'm pretty sure
Yeah,
it
yeah.
has a
Well, we don't have a
bathroom."
bathtub, but we have a full shower, and I mean it's actually a very beautiful bus. So, but
Okay, I've
we
seen it
have
on Instagram, so you
yeah,
can find them on the Unhustle
hustle.
Bustle
Yeah, we no
on
longer
Instagram. The
hustle.
Unhustle.
Yes,
They're not hustling
we're
anymore. The
not hustling.
Unhustle
Yes,
Bustle.
yes. So,
Um,
but yeah, so
to,
we have
yes.
a shower, and we have a like what we call is a main suite, so a master bedroom for my husband and I, and then the girls have their own room with bunk beds, and they have a whole area to homeschool, and full kitchen and living room and all of that. So you can fit a lot into a 40-foot bus. So
Yeah. So, how did you decide this is the route we're going to take around the country, or how did you decide where you're going to go?
yeah, so we kind of follow the weather. So we like it a good 70 to 80. So that's like our sweet spot. If it gets too hot, it's just uncomfortable. And I mean, there
Mm-hmm.
are definitely some disadvantages, to living in a bus. It gets hot. If you're outside, we don't have air conditioning throughout the whole thing. We just have it in the bedroom. So it's great for sleeping, but the rest of the time we just open up the
Mm-hmm.
windows. And I think that, we like to stay at a good temp, so it makes us a lot more
So, right
comfortable.
now,
And
you're in Louisiana, right?
I am, and it's way too hot to have the bus here.
Okay.
So actually the bus is back in Indiana, and we flew
Okay.
because whenever we fly to visit my husband's family in Florida, we have a dog that travels with us. So we leave the dog with my mom in Indiana, and then we fly and visit
Okay.
family. And right now my husband's working here in Louisiana, so we can, so that's why we're here. And I
Okay.
have no
So,
children.
did he find work that was just something he could take on the road and do?
Yes. Yeah. So we actually did
Okay.
not work for one whole year, neither one of us. So, which is crazy because we are very like budget oriented. So we knew we were going to do something. So we had been saving for about 5 years to do something. So, we made a really good plan, and we just didn't know what we were doing yet. So we were, fortunate enough to be able to take off a whole year of work. And then it was kind of crazy. He just started applying, and he was offered 3 jobs in like 1 week. And so it lucked out, and he took, the best one. He stayed with the best one. And it's like the perfect combination. We actually also own our own company as well, which does like audit and compliance and design and that kind of stuff for hotels or RV parks and those, which is like perfect for what I do and what he does. And we combine those skills together. So
Wow.
yeah,
It's like divine
it
intervention. Just, I don't know,
truly,
everything just perfectly lined up for
I
you.
think that, first of all, I believe in all of that. And I think whenever you let go, and get rid of a lot, the world literally brings to you whatever your like vibe is at, like whatever energy level you're giving out. I think it brings it to you. And for a while we were really struggling because everything was so new. So I don't want anybody to think that this wasn't difficult, because it really was. There were definitely
Yeah.
moments that we
Yeah.
struggled and that we thought, oh my gosh, I don't want to do this anymore because it's such a learning curve. And like, so there were times that I was like, we can't do this anymore. And the jobs and all of that, just watching money deplete out of your bank account is just an ugly feeling.
Yeah.
Like, even if you prepare for it, it's not a good feeling. And so, but I think finally one day we said, we're going to let go, and we're just going to live, and we're going to see what happens. And like everything completely aligned. And I don't know. We're just so happy now. And I never thought that a year ago, I never thought that it would have been like this. But I think it definitely takes some work to get there. You know, you got to keep
Yeah.
pursuing it. So
How do your daughters like this lifestyle?
yeah, so
Do
they
they want
love,
to do it forever?
yeah. So actually our 14-year-old, she just turned 14, which people ask a lot about because she's a teenager, right? Like, does
Mm-hmm.
she have any friends or how does she feel? And she loves it so much that whenever she turns 16, she wants to buy a little shuttle bus and us to renovate a little shuttle bus for her. She doesn't want a car because she wants to travel. And
Oh,
yeah, so like she loves this life. She loves being able to move from place to place. She has so many friends like all over the country that she meets. So I know people have like their high school buddies or whatever that they go to school with, but she has friends that are all over the country and we go and we visit them and we do meetups with them. And there's all these festivals and stuff that we go to and different experiences that because she was the one I worry about the most. The younger one is on board with anything that includes her dad and I. She's there for, right? Because she's 7, so she's like whatever. But I was worried about Lydia. I know she loves this, and she's really come out of her shell a lot too. So she was pretty shy and timid, and she's amazing. So, but she loves it, and the schooling is what is amazing as well because I just think it's a different
yeah. So
experience.
she's like the only one that you've had that did both public school and now this
Correct.
lifestyle because
Yeah.
your sons are already in
Correct.
college
Yeah.
when you started
They did
this,
the
and
whole.
then your
Mhm.
little one's
Yeah,
7,
we have
so
a
she
true
doesn't really know what
experiment
the.
going on right now with our household because we have ones that did the
Yeah.
whole regular school, public school, all the way to college. Then we have Lydia who's done both, and then we have Daphne who's only homeschooled. So yeah, it should be a very interesting experiment for all of them. So we'll see how it goes.
Now, how much of your homeschool do you actually even need or use curriculum? Because if you're traveling to
Yeah,
places, do you say, like, hey, we're going to the Grand Canyon, let's
yeah,
read some books or
yes,
websites on the Grand Canyon before we go there and then talk
yes.
about it after? Is that
Yeah,
kind of how it
yeah.
goes?
And we
Yeah.
allow Lydia to do a lot of the mapping out. So normally on
Oh,
the way,
cool.
so like geography is, I don't think that people know enough about how to read maps and like that kind of stuff.
Nope.
And so we work on that. And then Lydia, as we're literally going to a national park or a new city or whatever, she finds like 15 cool things about it and reads it off to us as we're in the car. Like that's what's so awesome about
Oh, I love
technology
that.
because it's like, well, we don't know about, New Orleans or, all the
Hmm.
things about St. Louis or wherever we're going. It's like, no, you teach us about it. We don't want to teach you. You teach us about it. So, she's taken a lot of ownership with that. And we do use some curriculum. So now that she will be a freshman, technically, but she is actually, we tested out of a bunch of stuff, which I'm like super excited about. So she will actually be a sophomore. She will graduate early. She'll graduate high school early. So, which is like incredible because she'll be able to travel for however long she wants to if she decides to go to
And
college
did you
before
even
she goes to college.
try? You didn't even try
Mm-mm.
for that. That
No,
wasn't even like
no,
a goal of
no,
yours. It
no,
just happened
no, not at all.
organically.
Yes, because she has so much more time. Like she's not sitting, for like 8 hours a day. And she had wonderful teachers. That's the thing is I always try to preface. She had wonderful teachers that are doing the best that they can
Hmm.
do with the situation that they're given. And
Yeah.
they have very full
A hundred
classrooms
percent. Yeah.
of a lot of variety of ability, right? And so they are helping all of the students. And it is difficult as a
Hmm.
public school teacher. I know how difficult it is. So they are doing everything that they can do. But for Lydia, she just really excels at doing it on her own. And it's kind of amazing to watch
Hmm.
because you're like, this is what you want. You want them to want to learn, you want them
Yeah.
to kind of do it on their own and you want them to always want to be a learner, right? Not just while they're in school. So it's pretty cool.
Absolutely.
It's pretty cool.
That is awesome. What are some of the most amazing things you've seen on your journey so far?
Mm. So it's kind of funny because we're from Indiana. So, but we never traveled up to Michigan. So, and Michigan is stunning. Like the lakes are just beautiful. They're more beautiful, I believe, than any of the oceans. So
Really?
yeah, yeah, the water is so clear and it's fresh water. And I mean, it's just beautiful. They have all these dunes and stuff and beaches up there. It's beautiful. Um, we also love Arizona a lot. So, but the Grand Canyon, I have to say, I always was like, whatever, it's just a Grand Canyon. Like you see all these pictures, but unless you go, it's like outrageous. I mean, it's incredible. And we actually, the
Really?
day we went, it snowed. So it was snowing in the Grand Canyon while we were there, which they say never, that like normally never happen. It was nuts. And there were
Yeah.
rainbows inside the Grand Canyon. It was just, it was stunning. So, and I had my cup of coffee and like,
Wow.
like we've got our dog with us and our kids, and Daphne is making snowballs and throwing them over into the Grand Canyon. It was just pretty cool. So,
Oh, that's so awesome.
yeah, yeah.
That's really
So,
cool. I was
yeah.
just listening to someone talk on like an Instagram live, and he was saying that there have been theories or people that present some sort of evidence that the Grand Canyon was actually a body of water at one time,
You could
but
definitely
it's
see
never
how
been
that,
proven.
yeah. Well, and
Yeah.
how we kind of homeschool is so whenever it comes to any questions like that, we kind of say like, well, there are people that believe this and there are people that believe this, right? Like flat earth or dome, or if it's a globe or like anything like that, we kind of give all of the information and then kind of try to figure out. I know that sounds kind of crazy, but
No, not at
we try to
all.
show the
Like,
views of, there are lots of people who think lots of different things. So it's not necessarily meaning that
right,
anything is one right way, just that these are the views of lots of people. So, so there's a
right,
great
because
option that it was made. It was,
given yeah, we're given so much information and told that that's just truth, but
yeah,
it's like, well, the person giving it to us, we can believe them, but they believe that the person before
yeah,
them that
told
told
them.
them, and they believed the person before them. And
Yeah,
then it gets to be like this whole game of telephone. It's
yes,
like, well, maybe some information got a little mixed up along the
yeah,
way, or somebody
yes,
had an ulterior motive for passing that
yeah.
information along, or, investing in the education system and creating
Yes,
textbooks with their
yes,
names on it. So,
yes.
crazier things have
I know,
happened.
I know, I know. So, and that's kind of how we go along with it. So, but the curriculum for Lydia, so even though we do a lot on the road and that kind of stuff, last year I did it all like myself. I did everything. And this year, now that my husband's working and I'm doing some things, it feels like it's really good to ask for help too, even though I was a teacher.
Hmm.
I think it's important for us to always ask for input from other people and other resources. So we actually use OutSchool for Daphne. So, and it's like these other teachers that are licensed teachers that have classes. So she takes class twice a week. And we're actually using the good and the beautiful this year for her as well. So, and it's just a stunning curriculum. I don't know if have you ever seen it?
That my intention is to use that as we start our homeschool
Okay.
process this year for my son.
Okay.
He will be 5.
Okay.
And
It's
that's
just,
the one that I was like, okay, let's try this one.
yeah, there's some other ones that I think are great as well. And I just went ahead and I just purchased it honestly because it's just beautiful. The pictures and the illustrations and the songs. So they have lots of free resources online. We started with the resources online, and their songs are great and they have great games. And it was just, it's well done. I have to say, they think it out. How's that? So, and I really like
Oh,
that.
good.
Yeah. So, and then for our teenager, we use something called Think Well, which is phenomenal. So it's like, it's not, a direct lesson from, like a teacher. It's not interactive, but they are videos made by like professors and all kinds of stuff. And it's done really well, as well. So I'm very happy with that.
All
So
right.
yeah, it's great for
And
science and
I'll put
math.
links to all this
Yeah.
stuff
Yeah. I wish I was
like
a
in the show
spokesperson
notes.
for
So
them.
as
I'm not going to
people,
lie.
so that was Think Well?
Yeah,
Okay. I haven't
for
heard of
high
that
school
one.
or for middle school and high school. That's
Okay.
all they do it for. So it's for the older grades. But we really
Okay.
wanted to make sure that she was where she was supposed to be, and she tested out of all kinds of stuff. So like that's very exciting, you know. So I'm like, we're doing something right.
Now, how does one, what kind of test would you even
So
take? Are
actually,
there state ones or is there a
yeah, so
website?
even on the Think Well, they have like a standardized test of say algebra or algebra honors, and so we just sat down with her and we said take it, and she passed it 100%. So then we went to the next test, which just means then it places you in something else. So like right now she's taking a sophomore class that would normally take everyone a whole year, but she's going to finish it this summer because we do school year round. So
Okay.
she'll do it all summer long. And then in the fall, she'll actually start her junior level math classes, which she'll be a freshman. So technically,
Wow.
yeah.
That's amazing.
Yeah. No, it's pretty cool. Homeschooling gives you so
Okay.
much options. It's crazy.
Yeah, and that's why I started this podcast because my mother was not going to homeschool. So it
Mhm.
never crossed my mind. I didn't
Mhm.
know any homeschoolers growing up. But now, with just kind of my eyes opening up to what needs to be, I guess like taught to our children, what we've lost in the last
Mhm.
generation or two, like survival skills, life
Yes.
skills. And we have to teach our kids this. We have to bring that back because we just cannot depend on people to put food on the grocery store shelves or give us shelter or
Mhm.
you need to know that stuff. And even if my kids don't necessarily need to know it, they need to teach their
Yeah.
kids that, and they need to teach their
Yeah.
kids that if we want the humanity to keep existing.
Well, and I
It
also
so
think,
easily was
yeah,
lost.
I completely agree. And I think to give them the concepts that these are all like occupations or jobs that people have. You know what I mean? Like whenever we went to a chocolate factory and I was like, girls, listen, these are people's jobs. Like this is what they get to do all day, every day, if that's what they want to do, you know? And I don't think in our
Yeah.
mind, whenever we talk to people or interact with people, we're like, no, this is a real thing. Like you could be a chocolatier. Like if
Yeah.
that's what you want to do, you can do that or whatever. So whenever we're out there
Yeah.
and we're meeting all these people, we're like, no, this is what this person does for a job. Like this is really cool. I know this sounds really crazy, but one day I had to wax. And so I'm waxing and my 7-year-old comes up and she's like, I want to try. And I was like, okay. So I let her do it and she put the wax on and she put the strip down. I hopefully this isn't too much TMI, but it was just on her
Yeah.
extra art, legs and stuff. But anyway, she did it. And I told her, I said, Dabney, someone gets to do this like as a job. This is, an esthetician or like you can do this as a job. And she was like, oh my gosh, this is so cool. So I don't think that we give our children enough experiences to understand like, oh, I could do that for a job if I wanted to, or I could do this, or, whatever it is, to
Yes.
think not always be thinking in the future, but just that there's so many options. I think we just pinhole them into certain ways to go to school. And I think the education world kind of forces you to go to college. And I don't think that that's
Absolutely.
always the way it's going to be or should be because of the cost for a lot of people, honestly. So,
Yeah. I know we watch Mike Rowe's show
yeah,
Dirty Jobs all the time, and we have my 4-year-old watching it with us. It's kind of like our weekend breakfast show
yeah,
that, my husband will cook breakfast and we'll all watch Dirty Jobs, which actually this weekend it was like they were cleaning out like a poop tank and I'm like, "Oh my God, while I'm eating, this
yeah,
is so nasty." But the whole concept of that I love because I always talk about how in high school we're expected to pick a major to go to college to spend I don't even know what
a
college
lot.
costs now. It was like 40,000
Yeah,
20 years ago, so I can't even imagine. And then you get into everything is backed by the government. So like as soon as you take out the loan for college, the government reimburses it. But okay,
yeah,
that's a different story. But anyway, so you're spending, say you
at
$50,000 a
least.
year. So now you've got $200,000 that you're going to owe when you get out, supposedly, and pick a
Hopefully
major.
make that
Well,
money.
okay,
Like,
and present, but we're not going to present you all the majors, all the jobs you could do with those majors. Like there should be a list of all the
Yeah.
jobs in the world and like, okay, well, let's go by category.
Hmm.
I mean, they didn't even offer that stupid test where it's like, "Oh, take this test and we'll tell you what you should
Yeah.
be," which is
I
probably
think
a
they
gimmick
do.
anyway.
I do think they do
But
that now.
it's like,
I do think they do that now. So that's at least,
do they?
I think that's by school though, choice. I don't know that all the schools, we taught in a very small little town school. So there were a lot more options whenever you're in a smaller school and the things that they're able to do compared to like huge
Yeah.
schools. I think it's a different situation. So, but no, I completely agree.
Well, and even yeah, my husband does commercial HVAC, and I'm always just I kind of thought like, oh, so you just work on like air conditioners, and he's like, no, the chillers are the size of our
Hmm.
house, and they're sitting on top of a roof or in a basement, and you have to know
Yeah.
electrical stuff, and you have to know plumbing, and
Well, think
all
of all
the,
the
of course, the
homeschooling he
OSHA
can do right
stuff. So
there.
it's like, yes, I know. He just needs the time off to do
Yeah,
it.
I get that.
It's crazy. So tell me, what does a day in your life look like generally? Like
Okay.
from waking up to going to bed?
Yeah. So, like I said before, we actually homeschool year round. So that gives us I think we're
Hmm.
required for 180 days of curriculum. We do way more than that a year. Way more because, and sorry, I'm going to go back a little bit, but that summer kids lose
Yeah.
so much. So as a school teacher, those 3 months in the summer, they like, it's crazy how much they lose. Like you're spending the first month or two whenever they go back to school just relearning what they learned in the previous year. So the summer
Wow.
there's something called summer loss, and it's real. It's a real thing. And so we do it year round. So
Okay.
it gives us the opportunity to have a lot more flexibility in our time. So we wake up normally, my husband and I, we wake up earlier. We like to go and set our circadian rhythm. We get up with the sun. We go to bed with the sun. We make our coffee, which we tried switching to tea, but man, I just can't do it. I need the coffee. I'm not going to lie.
Yeah.
And so we have our coffee and we read. And then normally the girls help me make breakfast. And then we ask that there's no electronics before 9 a.m. So we normally listen to some good vibe music or something like that while we're reading and getting our day set. So we always make our beds and get the area. Whenever you live in like 300 square feet, you really have to keep it pretty clean and organized. So
Yeah.
but my husband does like his stretch routine and stuff every day, but we're really both active in our girls' lives because the
Hmm.
work that he does really allows him to be present like all the time. So I'm very thankful for that.
Hmm.
We say every day how thankful we are that he has the job that he has because he gets to be a huge part in our girls' lives, which I think is so important for them to have like a strong male role model in their life, no matter who that is. I think it's very
Yeah.
important.
Yeah.
And so we have our breakfast. Normally they help me make breakfast and then we get started on schoolwork. And we normally start by reading and those kind of things, journaling, and then go straight in and we work for Lydia's is a little bit longer because she's really trying to accelerate herself. She's really trying to push to be done early. So we let her kind of do it as much as she wants, but I would say hers is maybe 3 to 4 hours a day, which does not include reading. So reading is a separate entity of that. And then Daphne's, we probably spend maybe an hour to an hour and a half a day on hers. And then the rest of the day is kind of meant for exploring, or we have down days too, where we're like, we just want to do nothing. We just want to veg out. We're exhausted from travel days. We don't do anything. So whenever we are on the road, we don't do any schoolwork because it takes a lot out of all of us to move the bus we normally drive for a couple hours at least. So, and to set the bus up and, all of that. But we normally have lunch all together and then go out and do some sort of physical activity. We like pickleball a lot. So we'll go and do that or go outside. We have a dog, so we walk our dog a lot. I like to walk. listen to music and make dinner together. We normally eat like 2 meals a day. So I'm saying we eat a lot, but actually we eat like a late breakfast and then an early dinner. So we try to eat before like 5. We normally eat
Okay.
dinner well before 5 p.m. just because we go to bed so early. And then we normally finish the day with either playing a game or watching a little bit of TV if we have the time or the energy, and then finish it with reading. So it's a pretty simple life. It's not anything too like glamorous or crazy, but we really like living a very slow life. That's we don't like to be rushed at all anymore. So we like to
Yeah.
take our time.
That is so beautiful. And yeah, as I'm thinking back to that Instagram live, somebody had asked the guy, do you think they're speeding up time? And he replied, well, no, it's all relative. It's relative to
Yeah.
how much is in front of you. So if like a word processor on a computer, if your mind is trying to siphon through so many different things in a day, it is going to seem like that day went by
Yeah.
really quickly. But if you're
Hmm.
taking this time to just be together and read and maybe
Yeah.
talk about what you read and go on walks and be in nature and just really make bonds with your family, it probably
It's
does go by a
very
little
slow.
slower and everything is, yeah. And you don't, I mean, that, how can you have any sort of anxiety in that
No,
lifestyle? Like it must just be so blissful and
well, it is.
peaceful.
And I think that we had our twins whenever we were very young. So I was actually 16 whenever I had them. So I was a teen mom having twins. And it was
Wow.
very stressful. I mean, I'm sure you can imagine like
Yeah.
still being in high school and having two children,
Yeah.
and I was working and I finished on time and I still had good grades and all of that. And I lived on my own. And it was extremely
Wow.
stressful, extremely stressful. And I think for the first like 18 years of being a mom for the boys, put me in like a state of constant stress, if that makes sense. Like always trying to prove
Yeah.
myself as a mom,
Yeah.
always trying to make sure that I have my kids where they need to be and that we're on time and that I'm doing the right thing, and the cooking and the cleaning and the like all of it. It's a lot that we put on ourselves as women and as mothers. And I think the jobs are, I know women, it's so hard to say things because you can see the other side. I know that women like to be independent, and I do as well. But I think women needing to work, having to work instead of choosing to, makes for such a stressful life for a woman. I'm so appreciative
Hmm.
now that that's not where my life was or is, but I think it took quitting and kind of reevaluating the whole situation to get there, if that makes sense. And I think we just put so much stress on ourselves, and it literally can kill you. And I don't think people talk about that enough, about how demanding jobs are. And then on top of that, you're expected to do all of these roles. On top of that, it's impossible to do it all well. You can only do so many things a day, And I try to,
A
yeah, I
hundred
mean, it's very
percent.
difficult.
It- I mean, and then when you look, if you, get into the conspiracy part about it, it makes total sense because, our grandmothers, didn't real, I mean, my grandmother did have a job, but it wasn't,
Right.
typical that every grandmother or even your grandmother's mother, usually they stayed home. But the government, if you think about the women getting into the workforce in the 60s, if you look at it in terms of they wanted a bigger tax base, instead of getting tax money from 50% of the population, let's, double that and get it from both families. And then with that, we can get a hold of their kids earlier on because
Yes.
now kids need daycare. Let's give an 8-week maternity leave, which
Unheard of.
is, I mean, I I
We,
I had kids late in life, and like it was like, wait, 8 weeks? You want me to give this to someone for basically 50 hours a week because the commuting time? That's
it is. And they don't even
insanity.
take puppies away from their mothers that early. They wait until like 12 weeks to take
I
a
said the
puppy.
same
I'm
thing.
like, this is
Yes,
crazy.
I said the same thing recently. That dawned on me. I was like, wait a minute, a
Yeah,
puppy stays with
yeah,
the mom
yeah,
for
yeah,
12 weeks.
yeah,
How? How could you?
yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Well, and
Yes,
then
and
that just
so
a whole
all of
attack on
that
the
kind of got
family.
under
I
my
mean, it really is. And then
yeah,
we're expected to live up to these standards that are impossible to hold, which is still a clean house and good food and good meals, which good food is incredibly hard to do anyway. No matter how clean you eat, we eat because now, I'm into all of that stuff. So we watch everything that we eat and no, processed foods and none of that stuff. And it's very difficult even for me to do it. So as a working mom and all of those things, it's very hard to do because you're so busy that you're just looking at trying to feed your family beyond even what's best,
which is why they're putting the
Yeah.
fast food at, the corner, every corner is the fast food. And then to kind of put on the mom like, well, your kids should be in sports. So whether you're taking them to soccer or baseball games, and it's springtime right now. So in upstate New York, everybody is like, oh, we have baseball practice, 3 games this week. And it's like, where do you even have the time to
Hmm.
make a meal? And then clean up from that meal. And it has to be by design because it is so perfectly like put together to make us so that we eat
Yeah.
poorly and don't have
And
time to
I think
connect with each
meals are
other.
so important. I think it's probably the most important thing
Yeah.
that we do together as a family. And so I'm blessed though that even while the boys were home, I taught them how to cook. So it was something that I made a huge priority because we didn't really want to spend money eating out. It was, um, like I said
Mm-hmm.
before, we had the money, but we saved instead of spending it going out to eat or anything like that. We chose to stay home and eat.
Mm-hmm.
And so whatever the boys wanted to eat, like I was like, well, let's figure out how to make it. You want to make Chinese? Let's figure out how to make egg rolls and fried rice or make homemade pastas and all of those which is a luxury. I understand. I know that that is not like a reality for most people. But I think, sometimes you make a
Yeah.
priority of the things that are most important to you. And cooking for me was definitely one of the most important things for me while I was still working or anything like that. So, but it's very difficult.
Yeah. Could you give us kind of some examples of what you guys eat during the
Yeah.
week? Because especially being
Yeah.
on the road, I mean, do you go to a grocery store or like how do you make the
Yeah.
meals that you do for
So
your
meat
family?
is kind of a big deal. So, because we really like having the protein, but we like to know where it comes from. So that's kind of the most difficult
Mm-hmm.
part for us, I think, is buying like locally sourced meat is very important. So we do more of a,
Mm-hmm.
like chicken and fish situation. That's kind of the easiest thing for us to do. Cattle is a little more difficult depending on where you are in the country and those kind of things. But yeah, throughout the week, well, we make homemade bread. So I have a bread maker in the bus. So we make homemade bread and we love curries. So, which I did not even know. I actually met some other bus families while we were staying out in Arizona, and we had a potluck one night all together with all of our kids, and they were like, well, we're going to make curries. And I was like, okay, I've never made curry before. So I tried it and it's like delicious. And we make homemade naan. Um, and I don't know, we just make a lot of chicken salads or lots of fresh things. So that's most everything we
Mm-hmm.
have has at least two vegetables in it, which I think people like look at us like we're crazy because we at least, and our girls for the most part love any green bean pancakes is something that we love to make. So, and I don't think that's really a common thing to
Huh.
eat, but it's super simple and
No.
it sounds really gross. I know that, but it's not really pancakes, but it's just like French green beans with onions and garlic, which is delicious anyway, and salt and pepper and red pepper flakes. And then you just put them in like tortillas, like homemade tortillas, and you eat them kind of like a taco or whatever. And it is such an easy dinner and it is delicious.
Okay.
I mean, it's delicious. And our girls like love it. And if you're like, I can get them to eat Brussels sprouts or green beans or asparagus or, anything like that, why not do it?
Yeah. Yeah. And yeah, I didn't grow up with a mother that
Hmm.
cooked really. So, or she did, it was like super dry
Yeah.
meatloaf. So I'm like, how do I? My grandmother, she did cook, but she was on my father's side, but she passed away when I was 8. And I think my mother's mom cooked, but she
Hmm.
passed away long before I was born. So it's like, yeah, that stuff didn't
Yeah.
trickle down. So then I'm kind of like,
Yeah. And
well, where do I even? I
yeah.
know there's cookbooks and stuff. My aunt, she lives in Wisconsin, and she did take
Hmm.
all that cooking from my mother, but she lives so far away
Yeah.
that she can't teach it to me. But she sent me a cookbook,
Well, hey,
so I have to
we
get
can
through
do
that. But
some
it's hard.
videos, some
Like,
live streaming videos, and I'll be happy to show you what we're making. But I cook like I
perfect,
mean, except when we're here in a hotel,
perfect.
but I cook every day. So every meal. So, and I love it.
Yeah, and I do too, but it's like we run out of things. But and I did just get like we purchased a quarter, I think a
Hmm.
quarter cow
Yeah.
from the local farm. So it's like, okay, well, I'd love to have the
Hmm.
cattle here and be able to like
Yeah.
know how to butcher that, but
Yeah.
step one will be we'll get it
Yeah. Have
this
you
way
ever
first. I'm sure you don't have the
No,
freezer
no,
space on
we
the
don't.
bus.
And that's kind of why we basically just do fresh. We have like an apartment size refrigerator in there. So it's, a decent size freezer, but
Mhm.
it's not anything crazy. We do a lot of smoothies and like acai bowls
Yeah.
and yogurt and granola and
Okay.
stuff like that. So, which is, you can still buy frozen fruits and stuff for that. But overall, a heavy fruit and vegetable diet is how we prefer to be. We feel the best. How's that? Our bodies feel the best whenever that's how we're eating, instead of all the
Yeah.
carbs and dairy and all of that. So it isn't so great for us. But
Yes. And when you think about schooling, like they don't, I mean, the food pyramid, it's
it's like
basically
wrong.
all like the
Yeah.
what you should have the most of
Yeah.
says the
Yeah,
grains.
it's kind of
Yeah.
upside down because even sweets and stuff like that, like we don't necessarily limit sweets, but we just want them to be homemade. So I mean, if you want a chocolate cake,
Okay.
let's make a chocolate cake. We can eat that whole sucker. I don't care. But or apple pies or crepes or whatever it is that you want, but let's make it homemade instead of like going to the store and purchasing it because we feel like that's the best.
And so you'll do the
Hmm.
crust and
Yeah,
everything to the
yeah,
apple pie
yeah.
yourself, huh? I didn't even know. I didn't even know that people could do that
Listen,
till
it
I
takes
I was older, which
it's
is so funny.
it's a
I'm like,
lot more work, and sometimes I'm just like, why am I doing this to myself? But I also realize now that I'm blessed to have the time and I'm with them, and that's what I want, is to be with my
mm-hmm,
children. And I think it's
mm-hmm.
important for them to learn these skills that hopefully pass down through multiple generations, not just how old the girls are
Absolutely.
now. So
Yeah, and going back to what you were talking about before, but yeah, I was one of those people who was kind of like it was ingrained in me that like you need to get into the workforce, get into the workforce. And until I had my second child and kind of really took a step back and saw like just the bigger picture, it was like, wow, we totally take for granted having, healthy children and giving them the nutrition to be able to
yeah,
think properly and getting them out
yeah,
and into exercise and being able to do that. And yeah, my priorities just all kind of changed. And, I remember thinking about my sister who stayed home with her kids. Like, oh, well, what are you going to do with your life? Like, what about when they leave you? What are you going to have? Well, now that her kids are older, her and
yeah,
her husband started a pizza
yeah.
business and they have their own business. And, he retired from being a police officer and
Hmm.
now they have this like second life. And there's so much time to work when your kids are older. And even me for having kids later in life, like you said, I worked, did the government thing for 15 years. What's stopping me from going
Yeah,
back
later.
at
Yeah.
60 or so to finish out the years to get, yeah, that's always a possibility. So, yeah, this whole like thought process that we need to like climb the ladder, climb the corporate ladder and, and still come home and do all the stuff at home. There's
There
other
is.
ways that they don't talk about in school. And, it's just that there's so much else to get done. Like you said, the teachers do the best they can with the resources that they're given, but they're
Yeah.
trying to
Well,
stay
and they
afloat
have
a
their
lot of
own
the
lives
time,
too.
make sure that every kid is
Yeah, they
taken
have
care
their
of.
own lives too. I mean, we're
You're right.
expecting them to do all of these crazy things, and
Yeah.
that's not their responsibility or their role, but they do it anyway because they're selfless, giving people. Because that's why you go into I mean, you're not, I
Yeah.
know there's the outliers, right? Of radicals and all kinds of stuff, but that's literally with every single situation. Almost every single
Yep.
teacher that I know is out there doing what they think is best to help. And then there's parameters set on that by the school corporation or the
Yep.
government, which is either forcing them to do certain things a certain way or making it impossible to help in whatever way possible, and it's just, it's a rough situation across the
Yep.
board. So that's what I always, I am a firm believer in public education because I do believe that everybody deserves to have a good quality education. So, but it's also, I wish it weren't so conformed by the government. I wish that it wasn't controlled by the government.
Yeah. The
Yeah.
government
And that's what I think limits it so much.
right. And funding,
Yeah.
that
I mean,
sort of
all the
thing. Yeah.
state testing and everything, it's so stressful. It's stressful on the students. It's stressful on the teachers. It's awful. First of all, it shows nothing. There's nothing good that comes from it. They just get it for
Right.
money for the school. It's just a horrible situation across the board. And as a teacher, I think all of us can agree that why we're here is to help and to teach, not to test. And I firmly believe that
Yeah.
almost every teacher can agree with that. I don't think that that's a new concept or anything, but they're forced. There's nothing that they can do.
Yeah. I wonder when like testing actually became part of the education system and,
Mm-hmm.
the rationale, if that has changed over time, if it started out as one thing and kind of snowballed to this
Yeah,
funding stream.
honestly, I don't know. That'd be a good thing.
Because, yeah, why
Yeah,
does
that would
anyone
be a
feel
great thing to
necessary?
look into. And honestly, I probably should know that. I know whenever I was in like elementary school, we were tested. It was like I-step, and it was like in fourth grade and then in high school. But now it's like every year you're tested. I mean, starting in first grade, you're tested. And some of them are okay.
Yeah.
Some of them show your students' ability and where they're at and like how to get them if they're on level, if they're on reading level. But that's another thing that I think is completely outlandish is these expectations that we have for these children. Because in first grade, they are expected to be reading at what used to be a third grade level. And it's outrageous what our expectations are. And really, these children should be allowed to just kind of grow and flourish on their own. But that's not able to be done in public education because of the parameters that the teachers are put on and the requirements that they have to, like, our students have to be here, you know what I mean? And just keep pushing instead of being able to let them take their time. Because I do think that students really need the time, especially as young children, to be able to grow into it. Daphne, our younger one, that's something that I've struggled with personally is because it's taken a little bit long. Math, she's a whiz at. She's like, it's ridiculous how intelligent with math. It comes super easy. She can do multiplication and all of this kind of stuff. And she's 7. But reading has been a little bit more difficult. And that's normally what happens. You have a child who excels in something and then they have a deficit in the other. But if she were in school, honestly, she may have been a behavior issue in the reading area because she I don't want to say she struggled, but it was more difficult for her. And now she's great, but it took a while. It took a while for her to get there. And I think that it would have been really sad to watch or see that because I think she would have really gotten down on her. She's like the happiest little kid I've ever seen in my entire life. And I think it would have been probably really devastating for her to feel as though she wasn't doing as good of a job as her peers were doing. And so this homeschooling really allows her just to do it at her own schedule.
Yeah, and she might have really developed
Yeah.
a hate for
Yeah.
reading
And she
if it were
really doesn't
forced upon her
enjoy
by
it.
certain
Now,
ages.
I know that sounds
Yeah.
terrible and, but it is, I mean, we all enjoy our own things. So we try to focus on like reading science
Yeah.
things or reading math things because she really enjoys science and social studies and math. And you can tell that's kind of how her brain functions a little bit better. But yeah, I think it would have been really sad to watch, honestly. And as a parent, we never want to
Yeah.
see the light come out of their eyes. You want them to just be so happy and sparkly all the time. And I think that would have been really sad to
Right.
watch, honestly.
Right. Oh, yeah. Now, with the Unhustle Bustle, is there anything that you like wanted to talk about with that, or is that just kind of
Yeah,
what you
no,
guys
so
go
that's kind of
by
just
on
what we go
Instagram?
by. I haven't really monetized anything on there yet. We have like some brands and stuff that we work with. But we're getting there. I'm doing it really slowly and organically because I feel like it can be there's a lot of pressure on like social media accounts and stuff to grow them like at some outrageous
Yes.
rate. And I started doing it just to uh, show our family that we were still alive because our family would thought we were nuts. I'm not gonna lie. We had good jobs and a nice house, and our kids were doing great. And like here we are pulling them out and selling everything and quitting our jobs. So I think they thought we were pretty nuts. So we did it mainly to like keep them involved so they could see what we're doing in the process of the build of the bus and those kind of things. Um, and now I realize how many people think that it's so cool what we're doing. You know what I mean? And are so supportive and are like, how did you get started in
Yeah.
this? And, what would you change? And,
Yeah.
I love to design. So that's kind of, I use this as at least an example of something that I can design if people are ever interested in wanting layouts or things like that. But we don't really do anything else with it. Okay. I
I
can
am.
totally do that.
I need apparel. I have all these ideas in my head of like, oh,
Yeah.
I could sell a t-shirt that says this, but I have
Yeah.
absolutely no
Well, and
design
that's
background at
that's what's so
all. I'm
fun
not
with even
creative
the
really in that
homeschooling aspect. So
aspect.
like Lydia, our logo and everything. So Lydia actually made our logo, and she made us stickers. So and I can send you one. But we have like the Unhustle Bustle stickers. So we trade with other
Yeah.
like full-time families. That's kind of what you do is you trade these stickers whenever you're out on the road. And who knows? Maybe we'll write a book one day. I
Oh,
don't know. There's like all kinds of cool things that
yeah.
um I think you forget whenever you do this. So there's lots of people who do what we do. We are definitely not the only ones. There are like thousands of families doing this. And so
Wow.
we feel as I know, but
That's so
yeah, I don't think
crazy.
that people
I
know,
love
but
it.
we know like thousands of families doing this right now, like know
Mm-mm.
them. And
Wow.
so what we are doing, we don't necessarily think is so special, if that makes sense. We just kind of are like in that group. So we're like, oh, well, they're doing it and we're doing
Hmm.
it and everyone we know is doing it. But that's not really the reality. And every time somebody says, oh, you guys should write a book or you should do a podcast or you should do like, you should be. And I'm like, I forget that that's not really how the majority of people are living. And I know that sounds so stupid. Like I probably should realize that. But whenever you're in that world, you just are like, oh, people don't want to know this. People
Yeah.
don't want to know what we do with our toilet or you know what I mean? Like those
Yeah.
kind of things like living on the bus or how we cook or how we have enough food to last us for a long time or how long we can be off grid for. And I forget, oh yeah, people do want to know those things. So maybe they can do it one day if they want to. So I haven't quite gotten there.
Absolutely.
I'm slowly.
Absolutely. Even me just like
Mhm.
to like
Yeah,
leave a job, leave a career. I mean, like there are so many people that would be like,
yeah,
well, of course you
yeah,
do. You leave, you
yeah.
be with your kids while your kids are young. They need you. But there's this other part that like I've been so ingrained and like almost
Mm-mm,
hypnotized to think
mm-mm.
you don't leave
Yeah,
government service. You don't do that. And it's like really the push is, I so this podcast is helping me because I'm seeing like all and some moms
yeah,
don't, some dads don't, they find a way to homeschool and make it work. I just don't think with the amount I have to travel to work and all that, it's just like, no, I want to like concentrate on one thing. But that's why I started the
Hmm.
podcast. I was like, let me
Hmm.
see what people are actually
There
doing
really
out there.
is.
'Cause
And
there's
I
so many
don't
ways
think
to
that what
homeschool,
we're
this being one
doing
of them.
is perfect for everyone, but it's perfect for us. And I think that that's what is the most beneficial
Hmm.
part of homeschooling is you can kind of do it. You can do it where it's completely done through a school, where you do it online, or you can dabble in little bits of this and little bits of that, or you
Yeah.
can completely come up with your own curriculum. You can literally do anything. And even as a public school teacher, I was very scared. I know that sounds probably really stupid, but I was very scared to do this because I had such high
No.
expectations that I felt that were placed upon me, that I needed to be at this certain level of teaching
Mhm.
and hardcore education every single day. And so at the very beginning, it does not look now what it looked like a year ago, or because we've now homeschooled for 2 years though. So whenever we, in 20, when did COVID start? 21, we sold our house. So yeah, so I quit my
2020.
job in spring of 21, in March of 21, and we bought the bus in March of 21.
Okay.
So then, and then that fall, we didn't send the girls. So they've been with us for almost 2 years now, homeschooling. So, but it did not look at all like what it looks like now,
Wow.
because I was so worried that I wasn't doing a good enough job, you know, which is,
What have you
I'm a lot more
changed?
laid back. I give myself a lot more grace to have days that
Hmm.
are okay just to be, like let's just draw today. Let's do some art today. Let's take a million brain breaks today. Like some days I don't want to do it either. And that's okay. Like it's not like it's super easy. It sounds like what we do is easy, and it is because the girls are amazing and they work very hard and they're very teachable, Um, but some days I'm just like, I just want to be a mom today. I just want to like, let's go do something, or even just a grocery shopping experience. I think is a great learning experience, going off a budget. So we want to travel abroad, and,
Hmm.
and we have several places that we want to go. But instead of us being in charge of that, we are making Lydia be in charge of it. So she has to come up with the budget, how much it costs for us to fly there, how much it's going to cost for us to stay there, the food per diem, per person, per day. Like she has to do all of that. So like that's a whole homeschooling. That's a whole
Wow.
week at least. Yes. Like that is a skill that we all
Project.
should know how to do.
Yeah.
We all should know how much things cost and how to research flights
Hmm.
and those kind of things. Like we think those are what's, yeah, yeah.
And the
And
travel
what that
conversion
looks
for
like as far
money.
as where do we stay, and if we want it to be like a luxurious trip, or if we want to be like, I don't think we'll do hostels. Not that I have anything against them, but just like with the girls and stuff, it's a little bit different traveling with children. So, but
Yeah.
getting little Airbnbs or little cottages or
Yeah.
things like that, I'm like, let's let her be in charge of the
Yeah.
budget and figuring that out,
Hmm.
because that's pretty important. So like, those are the
Yeah.
things that are different now. Is I've given myself enough grace to let the learning experiences come on their own compared to forcing it so much. So, because I was even doing it just like the
Okay. That's
school
great
system was doing
advice.
it whenever I first started, and it was exhausting. So, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and I'm
You had to
learning as we do
untrain
this too.
yourself.
This is a whole new learning experience for me as well. And I like
Hmm.
that because I want to continue learning and thinking about new things and learning new
Yeah.
ways. And maybe I will go back into teaching one day,
Hmm.
and I'll have all of this information and expertise and like all of this. And I've had families
Yeah.
reach out to me because they want me to homeschool their children. So, and there are teachers that do that. So there are teachers who will have like pods. So if you don't travel full time, but I've had multiple families contact me and saying, "Hey, we will pay you your salary to teach our 6 children, like in this little pod if you will teach them like
Wow.
privately. And like you can do that. Like teachers do that. Like those are options if if they have the funds
Yeah.
and those kind of things. So but yeah, who knows what it looks like in the future. But right now I'm good. I'm good just
I would be I would be so excited to talk to you in like 1 year's time and have you back on and just hear what you
yeah,
guys have
yeah,
learned
I
and
know.
experienced, how that trip went,
I know we have
and
dreams of
like where you
homesteading.
guys are at that point.
And I want to build another home. So that's the
Hmm.
thing is like, it's not like we don't see ourselves traveling forever. We're just not done traveling yet. So we've done it for a year. And a lot of people have asked, like, are you done yet? I'm like, we haven't even seen
Yeah.
anything yet. It's like there's so much out there and the people are amazing. I think that's the other thing is the news makes it seem like the world is crumbling and that people are murdering everyone everywhere. And that's just not how it is. There are wonderful people who are so helpful and so kind, like all over this country. That's what I try to stress the most is like
Hmm.
you asked earlier, like what the best part or the best place is. It's really the people. Truly. And I know it sounds like really corny and like whatever, but I
Oh,
mean, people are amazing. And
no.
they don't
Oh,
talk
no.
about that enough. Like just in all walks of life. Like we don't see any of the
Yeah.
stuff and I know it
Yeah.
exists and all of that. But in our realm, and we've stayed in all kinds of places with all types of people, and we don't see any of that. And so I wish that that's what was more focused on as far as,
Hmm.
and we think that's great learning experiences for our girls too, to not necessarily believe what's being shown
Yes.
because they're just good people. It doesn't matter any of that other stuff.
Yeah.
They're just good people being helpful and
Hmm.
kind and so many cultures to learn from.
Right.
So,
Absolutely. Do you have any bucket list places that you want to go
so
before
like
your
in the
traveling
bus
is
or
done?
like just in general in life? Yeah, so
Yeah,
we are
in the
actually
bus.
doing an East Coast tour. We leave as soon as we get back to Indiana. So we fly back on the 15th. And so as soon as we get back to Indiana, we are heading out east. First of all, the weather is like perfect. And so we're going to go there. And I'm very excited about like Vermont and Maine. And we've even there. Yeah, we're
Ah,
going
you're gonna
up.
be. I'm right next
Really?
to Vermont.
Okay, so we're going
It's like
up to New
15 minutes
Hampshire
from my
and
house.
doing all of that stuff up
Yeah.
there. And actually, we were talking about like going
Nice.
over into Canada and taking the bus in Nova Scotia. We have friends that are up in Nova Scotia right now,
Cool.
and they took they shipped their bus up there, and so I don't know. I'm very excited about the East Coast. So I've never been up there except for Boston. So I'm
Cool. You're gonna
yeah, it's
skip right past New York, aren't you? Go right
well,
by
there
me.
is, I don't know. We're actually staying in upper state New York for the 4th of July. So there is we booked a little campground up
Oh,
in,
cool.
we're going to hit all the states. So that's we don't really have a goal of hitting all the states, but it's
Okay.
something that we're counting, if that makes sense. So I know a lot of people have goals of like visiting all the national parks or
Yeah.
visiting all 50 states. We don't necessarily put parameters on what our goals are. We just do keep track of it, if that makes sense. So, but yes, so
Mm-hmm.
honestly, I don't
Where
know.
in
My
upstate
husband
New York, do you know?
scheduled it, but I can message you and tell you where we're going to stay okay. Yeah.
I'll have to follow you
Yeah.
on
So
Instagram and be like,
I'm
okay,
pretty,
you're
yeah,
right
you can
near me.
have a
I'm gonna
tour
come
of the
visit
bus
today.
and everything. So maybe you can bring your son and then he can look at it and be like,
Ah,
oh, I could
that'd be
do
cool.
this. This is something I could do. So yeah, yeah, yeah,
That's
yeah.
where they take a shower.
But that's funny that that's the biggest question he has is the showering situation. Yeah, yeah. Well,
Yeah,
we
how
have
do they
tanks
get
of water
clean?
and we do stay at campgrounds probably half the time. So we're like hooked up to water and we have a
Hmm.
washer and dryer on
Hmm.
the bus. So I can do laundry and yeah. So it's not like it's
Oh,
some
cool.
primitive thing. How's that? We think it's pretty luxurious for
Yeah.
camping.
Well, and the campgrounds would be Yeah, the campgrounds would be
Yeah.
fun too,
Yeah.
because that's probably where the kids meet all sorts of kids. And where else would you park your bus
No,
and
so there's
get out?
something
Like
called
a Walmart
boondocking,
parking lot or where?
and there's an app called iOverlander, and we use
Okay.
that frequently, and it has all of these free places that you can stay all over the whole country that are like beautiful, that are like publicly owned land that you can just pull right up to and you stay for free. So you don't have to pay at all. It's just it's owned by the government, which so there's a good thing. But you can just stay on the land for free because nobody builds it, nobody owns it, and you can camp. And we meet all kinds of interesting people that do the same things that we do. So that's where we stay with our friends the majority of the time. So Arizona
Wow.
is great to boondock. There's like a ton of places, unless you're going into like big cities. So Phoenix or Scottsdale or stuff like that. It gets harder the bigger of a city you're in because most of the time it's street parking and we've got a really big
Hmm.
bus. So if you've got a little van or something like that, that's really easy to do. But our bus is just too big to just park on the side of the street in the middle of downtown somewhere. But yeah, there's like,
Hmm.
I mean, thousands of places you can stay all over the country. It's amazing. So, and we also are part, yeah, we're also a part, yeah,
That's so
Harvest
cool. Yeah, I
Hosts.
never knew that.
So they offer like people offer their homes and they lots of people have all kinds of land and so you can just go stay on their properties for free. You book it just like a hotel room, but you can stay on their properties for free. Some people even have like water hookups or electricity, so they'll let you charge up. A lot of times you can stay at breweries and wineries and museums and all kinds of stuff. So there's all kinds of free places to stay all over the country. Yeah. Yeah.
Wow.
So yeah, which
Oh, that is
that's
so
our
cool.
favorite.
I
Yeah,
love
that's
it.
kind of our
Learn
favorite. We
something new
really
every
like to
day.
boondock. So being in a campground is nice because yes, there's lots of kids, but boondocking is so peaceful and you feel like you're really there like in nature and it's somewhat serene. Those are the moments I think whenever we look at that we're
Hmm.
like we can't believe that this is our life. Like we're here in the middle of nowhere and no one else is around us and we get to
Oh,
experience this like with our children, you know. So it's like those are kind of the really cool experiences is
that
boondocking. So well, thank you.
that's so
No, thank
beautiful.
you so much for
Thank you
having
so
me.
much
I
for being
appreciate
with
it.
us
Yeah,
today.
it's been
This
wonderful.
has
I'm
been
so
an
glad we got
amazing
to meet face to
conversation.
face. So
Oh, I love it. So everybody
that's all right.
follow the Unhustle Bustle,
Yes.
the Unhustle Bustle, and on
Face,
Instagram.
Facebook, a little bit
And
on TikTok.
where else
Actually,
can people find
I
you?
just opened up a YouTube channel because we had this really
Okay.
cool tour of our bus done by, there's a show called Gutted. And it's like where they build buses and it's like a competition show. And anyway, someone who's on that actually did a tour of our bus. And so they made this really cool video and I'm super
That's so
nervous. So
cool.
even doing this is me stepping out of my comfort zone just because of things on the internet and whatever, you know. And so I did this tour and people were like, you should do this. Like
Yeah.
you should have a YouTube. So I just started a YouTube. I haven't posted anything yet, but I do have a YouTube channel. So it's also the Unhustle Bustle, which just makes it super easy. But we'll see if I get to, that's a lot of work. Editing and putting on YouTube is a lot of
Yeah.
work. So
Yeah. I started a podcast thinking, oh, I'm just going to be having conversations with people. And like this part is so
yeah.
minuscule of
Yes.
actually having a podcast. It's the editing, it's
Yes.
the being on
Yeah.
social media to promote it. Like I don't have the time or the creativity to do all that. I'm trying, but it's like, yeah,
Yeah.
I started a YouTube. I think I only have like 2 podcasts on it, which I have 17
Mhm.
published, but there's, I got 10 more
Yeah. No,
waiting
it's a
on
lot.
deck to go out. And it's like,
I think I am always
but I'm
so like
learning.
in
It's
awe
fun
of
and it's
people who have
cool.
all these videos because I don't think you understand how much work really goes into making all of those. It's a
Yeah.
lot of work, like a lot. And so that's one reason why I
Yep.
haven't done it yet. I'm not
Yeah.
lazy. I just don't know that I want to do it
Yeah.
yet. So
Yeah.
it
I
is.
know. It's a
Yes.
lot of
And I
learning
probably
too,
should just
like the
do it just for
technical part
that
of it
part of
all.
it, if that makes
Yeah.
sense. Just
But
maybe that'll be a lesson for Lydia and she can take that over for me. And
hmm
she can just learn how to do that, right? So
yeah. That
there you go.
would that see?
Hey,
I
there
can
you
maybe
go.
teach my
Lydia
4-year-old to
actually
edit the
makes like
podcast.
NFTs and sells them and stuff like that. So she learned how to do all that all on her own and how to do crypto. And I'm just like, it's so above my head. Every time she starts talking about it, I'm
Wow.
like, I don't understand what you're saying. Like that's a
Yeah.
all new beast. So
That is so cool though. I mean, when
yeah.
we let them flourish, like they
Well, and
will
I think whenever
flourish.
you,
It's
yeah,
really
thank you so
beautiful.
much.
Well, thank you so
Oh,
much.
well,
Oh,
no, that's fine.
yeah, no, no, go
Well,
on.
I
What were
was
you
just
gonna
going to
say?
say,
I'll edit
like,
that part
whenever
out.
you were talking about letting them, so it's okay to let your kids like quit things and like start something new. And I think like in sports and activities like that, like we're so hardcore about our kids, like doing these activities and stuff that we never really give them the option to quit. Does that make sense? And you're like, and I know quitting is like a really ugly word, and
Hmm
people talk how terrible it is to, let your child quit. But I'm like, if I don't want to do something and I don't enjoy it and it's not bringing me happiness, I quit. So like, we can let her. And so she hasn't made an NFT. That's kind of where I was going. She hasn't made one in a
Right.
while or done anything, but it's because she lost interest in it. So we're letting her pursue something else, and maybe she'll go back to it because she enjoys it again,
hmm
but she got like burnout, and I think we all get
hmm
burnout. So I think that that's, it's always good to
hmm
see like that part
hmm
of it too. Just like, hey, let's chill out on whatever it is for a little while and then come back to it. So
Yeah. No, that makes a lot of sense to
yeah,
finish out, a
yeah,
baseball season or
yeah.
something. It's like if you hate it, why? They just you
Yes,
can
and something that
put
you
your
enjoy.
efforts to
Now,
something
if
else, and
if
that,
they've if they've never done it
makes a lot more
before, I think
sense.
it's good to finish things out. Like I'm not saying trying and then quitting first time, but I think year after year after year, and you're like, oh
Mm.
no, baseball's our sport. What if your kid's like, I don't want to do it? And you're like, no, we're doing this. We've already spent so much money on all this travel and all this stuff. Like baseball's what you're doing, and like the
Right.
kid doesn't really have a choice. I've seen it. It's there. So it's a real thing. So,
Yeah. Yep.
but I
Yep.
don't know. And you know what? We were
Absolutely.
somewhat guilty of that with our boys as well. We had one that played basketball, and we had already done basketball his whole entire life. In his senior year, he was like, I don't want to, and I'm like, no, you've done this your whole life. You have to do this. Like it's your senior year. No, we made him do it. So I can tell you, as parents, we can be wrong or change our minds about our parenting and all that kind of stuff. Because I look back and I'm like, I should have just let him not play his senior year
hmm
because he didn't want to. You know what I mean? And he really didn't enjoy it. And I'm like, I was a terrible
hmm
parent. Like, what was I doing? But yeah, no, he
The
didn't.
whole time he didn't enjoy.
But you don't realize it whenever you're in it. You know what I mean? Like
Poor kid.
you can look back and in
Yeah.
retrospect, you're like, oh
Yeah.
gosh, that was a terrible parenting moment. I just should have let him stop before the season started, right? But no, looking back on it now, I'm like, no, no, probably should have made another choice for him. So, or let him make his own choice. How's that?
Well, if it makes you feel any better, I mean, I was a cheerleader at where I went to school, and it was like
Yeah,
pretty like we were throwing people in the air. Had like our dancing was like off the chains. We
yeah.
had probably 8 guys on our team at one point, so it was like legit cheerleading. But my senior year, my acting teacher asked me to be in the play, and I was like, I couldn't do both, so I quit cheerleading
Mm,
and I did the play, and I actually kind of regret it because like
yeah,
the cheerleading, I look back
yeah,
on this stuff, I'm like, that was a lot of
yeah.
fun going to the competitions, and like we were like kind of badass. But I mean, I had fun
Yeah.
doing the play, but like there are also
And
other plays that could have gone on in the
yeah. Well, maybe
the year. I kind of do regret quitting, but I tried it,
yeah,
whatever.
well,
And
maybe now
the
he's like
grand scheme
glad
of
that
thing,
he
it didn't
did it,
affect my
if that
life
makes sense.
that
So
much.
you really never know with parenting or any choices you make in life if they're the right
Yeah.
ones, because you can literally make a choice about and change anything in an instant. And you really never know if it would have been better the other way, or, that that's why I'm like, I try to tell parents, because Yeah.
That's what I say about the homeschooling, because it's like you don't
No.
know that this is the right choice for your child, because and they'll never know it either, because you
Yeah.
never have the opportunity to
Yeah.
see both ways simultaneously. And okay, which way did
Yeah.
you end up, like a 40-year-old living in my basement or not? So it just, you take it and you go with it.
Yeah.
And if it doesn't work, go back to the other choice or make it different. But yeah,
No,
there
not at
is
all. Well, and
no
our boys,
set
so
way
they're
to
doing
do it
wonderful, by the way. I
right.
mean, they did the public school the whole time, the whole team sports, all of that stuff. They're doing great. We have one that's in
Hmm.
IT.
Hmm.
And both of them will get out of school without any debt because they worked really hard and got scholarships and like found grants and like all these things. So, I mean, they're
Wow.
doing like amazing, and they live on their own and they pay their own rent and their own bills and so, I mean, it, it does work out. You know what I mean? Like they are doing great and they went to public school that whole time. So who knows if they would have turned
Hmm.
out that way if we had homeschooled them, right? I mean, you have no idea. The girls could live at home forever, right? Literally have
Hmm.
no clue. So
Don't
I'm
know.
not beating up on, public homeschooling because or public school or homeschooling because they're doing great. And they're thriving in their own ways. But yeah, you literally have
Hmm.
no clue what you're doing as a parent, we have no clue. So they love
What
it.
do they think of your lifestyle right
So I
now?
think looking back that they wish that perhaps we had done something like this whenever they were younger. I don't know in high school if it would have been the best choice for them just because of sports and things like that. Our girls have no interest in sports. So that's kind of where they differ, is because sports played a huge
Hmm.
part of their lives. So, and that's
Hmm.
very difficult to do in traveling. But I do think they think it's pretty cool because they tell their friends and then their friends follow us on social media
Yeah.
and stuff like that. So I'm like, okay, that they must think that it's pretty cool. And they're out there bragging on their parents. They live
So
in a
cool.
bus and they're like these hippies that are like out there
Yes.
like just doing whatever,
Oh.
right? So, but yeah, I think they think it's pretty cool. We've told them that they can do it. Like we would help them buy a van or whatever. And you can definitely see that their existence in this life so far has not allowed them the opportunity to think that that's a possibility. And I am regretful of that. I wish I had given them more opportunities to think that there's lots of different lifestyles out there and that the going to school and getting a college degree and buying a house and like all of those things aren't the only way to live, but that's all we knew. You only know what you know. I know,
Hmm.
but I
Well,
think
I
when
think you're
they're so
showing
much
them right
younger,
now.
you really can shape
Hmm.
who they are, if that makes sense. And you can change their mindset a little bit. And I wish
Hmm.
that, you can always regret on your
Yeah.
parenting choices and stuff like that. So we are in no means, even though we've parented now for 20 years, we're definitely not the best or know everything or all of that. But we really try to learn from our mistakes as parents and we'll admit whenever we've done something wrong, which I think is a huge difference
Hmm.
from like our parents in other
Hmm.
generations where it's like there was no wrong done whatsoever, and
Yeah.
so I think that it's important for us to keep
Right.
learning as well and making the best decisions in the times that we know. So of course. Yes, thank you
Absolutely.
so much.
Thank you so much. I've so enjoyed talking to you. I can't wait to follow everything, the rest of your trip, and
Yes,
to
yes, most
the
definitely.
Northeast. Hopefully, I'll get to meet up with you.
Yes. All right. All right,
That
thank
would
you
be
too.
so cool.
All right, bye.
All right. Have a great one. Thank you so much. Bye bye. Okay.